Hello, Pizza Packs here, and we're back with our fourth and final Collector's Edition Commander deck from Modern Horizons 3. This is Eldrazi Incursion, which is apparently all 5 colors plus colorless. So, I know this is the one that most people were super excited about, so let's see what's in here. Welcome, Eldrazi superfans. Well, alright. So, I don't talk about it much, but, few people that know me in person and have known me for a long time. Oh, knocked something down. And by for a long time, I mean with the original Zendikar World Week, I've never been a big fan of Eldrazi. I mean, yeah, they're big, silly creature things, which is cool, but I've just never really cared for them mechanically. I feel like they've led to bad design decisions over the years, and that just kind of continues. But I'm not going to yuck anyone else's yum. We have 6 counters, 2 tokens. It's just not personally my preferred way of designing things. So, it is what it is. Alright, we have our themed deck box. We have our Commander Collector Booster sample pack. So we'll open those in a different video. Got our insert in the envelope of awesomeness. Goodies. Alright, so let's see what this tuck box looks like. Oh, that looks weird. I like it. Not even the art, just the way the 6 symbols look together. And then we, of course, have the rather lazy, unbranded, unthemed life counter. All heard me complain about that in the other videos, so I'm not going to do too much of that this time. So, neat deck box. I like the kind of silverish design. And we have our insert. Oh, we got 2 inserts? What the heck? That's weird. Guess we got double packed. Or there's 2 inserts. I think we just got a double pack. But we have Eldrazi Incursion. Overview of the deck. Commander rules. Some art of weird new thing. Ulalek, fused atrocity. That just that's just wrong on so many levels. 2 ads. Now, I had a question in another video about how I know whether or not something's slush art. It's just from what I've seen on Twitter, from artists mentioning, hey, you know, I was commissioned to do this art for a different set, or, you know, art that doesn't really fit the theme overall, and things that just look like they were fairly obviously designed for either other sets, other planes, other cards. You know, it just has the feeling of something that just doesn't fit with the design overall. Wizards is also mentioned in their investor reports recycling assets that were intended for other releases that got canceled. That's what I mean by slush art. Things that were fairly obviously intended for a different set. Right. Now for the star of the show, the deck. We have Ulalek, Fused Atrocity, which I guess is supposed to be Ulamog and Kozilek joined together. But we have 5 colorless hybrid. So colorless hybrid white, blue, black, red, and green, so WUBRG, but you can also just play it with 5 colorless mana, which is a thing. I have a feeling that this is going to become the new Scarecrow King, or decks that want to play 5 color but don't really want to commit to having to play 5 colors. That is a thing. Devoid, so this is no colors, but it is also 5 color. It has a 5 color identity, but it is technically colorless. Whenever you cast an Eldrazi spell, you may pay colorless. If you do, copy all spells you control, then copy all other activated and triggered abilities you control. That's so silly. You may choose new targets for the copies. Mana abilities can't be copied. So, what this means is this thing goes infinite with a ham sandwich. If you're casting a bunch of Eldrazi spells, which includes things such as spells modified with Asquith Nexus, and other type modifying static effects, also applies to things with Changeling, Shape, I can't remember off the top of my head, when it has all types. Azlask, the Swelling Scourge. 3 mana, 2/2, legendary creature Eldrazi. Whenever it or another colorless creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. Oh, players get experience counters now, that's interesting. And then WUBRG, creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of experience counters you have. Scions and spawns you control gain Indestructible and Annihilator 1 until end of turn. Well, that's just gross. That's... I don't like that. That feels icky. It's basically WUBRG, give a whole bunch of stuff Annihilator. Even if you don't have any experience counters, that gets really gross really quick. Especially if you're just generating boatloads of Eldrazi spawn and Eldrazi scions. Snapping of Voidcraw. 1 green-blue for a 1/3 Eldrazi turtle with Devoid, so it has no color. Tap for 2 colorless. And then 3 in a colorless, tap, draw a card. And that's from the mainline set. It's common too. Huh. I wonder if that's going to see Pauper play. I haven't seen it played in Pauper yet, but let's see. Herald's Horn, 3 mana artifact. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. Good value engine and cost reducer. Everflowing Chalice. Oh, I loved this card when it was in Standard. 0 mana artifact with multi-kicker 2, so you may pay 2 any number of times as you cast a spell. It enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it for each time it was kicked. Keep in mind those charge counters can be proliferated. And then tap, add a colorless for each charge counter on Everflowing Chalice. Very nice. Glaring Fleshraker, another card from the mainline set. 2 and a colorless for a 2/2 Eldrazi drone. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, create a 0/0 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice this creature, add colorless. So, fun thing, this plus Junk Diver and Mirror Retriever and a Cracked Clan Ironworks goes infinite. But those things already go infinite. So, hey, it's another payout. We did it. We broke. We broke Cracked Clan Ironworks. We did it. Or, you know, 2 Mirror Retrievers and any number of other things. Like, there's plenty of ways to breaking this card. And whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. That's the thing that everyone's excited about with this card. It does silly things. And is a silly card. Designed by silly people. But it is what it is. Wastscape Battle Mage. 1 in a colorless for a 2/2 Eldrazi Wizard. Kicker green and or 1 in a blue. Whenever you cast a spell, if it was kicked with green kicker, exile a target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. When you cast a spell, if it was kicked with its 1 in a blue kicker, return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. Oh, that's gross. Because that's on cast, too. That's real hard to deal with. But this is also in the mainline set. I must have missed this during set reviews and looking at cards on the set. That could be a really powerful sideboard card for a lot of decks. Crib Swap. Hey, it's the classic shapeshifter removal card. 2 and a white for a Kindred instant. Used to be tribal instant. Shapeshifter. Changeling. It is every creature type, so this counts as an Eldrazi spell. Exile target creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. So, yeah, that giant whatever. That's a 1/1. It's just, Crib Swap is a criminally underrated card in my mind. I don't see enough people play it. It's so good. It's so good. Titan's Vanguard. 3 red-green for a 5/5 Eldrazi with the Void. When you cast a spell and whenever Titan's Vanguard attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each colorless creature you control. Trample. This is also in the mainline set. Funny enough, this might be better in just artifact creature decks than just straight Eldrazi decks. It's one of those weird ones. Talisman of Resilience. It is the green-black talisman. 2-mana artifact, taps for colorless, taps for green or black, and deals 1 damage to you. Just like all the other talismans. Moving forward, I'm just going to say Talisman of the color and then move past it. Hedron Archive. 4-mana artifact, taps for 2 colorless, and then 2 tap and sacrifice it, draw 2 cards. We used this quite a bit when it was in, I believe, Battle for Zendikar. Spawning Bed. It's the land that taps for colorless, and then tap and sacrifice it. Create 3 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature tokens. They have sacrifice this creature. Add a colorless. I think this was also in Battle for Zendikar. It kind of has the feel of that set. Oh, also, this has the neat Ripple foil, just like all the other cards in these decks. I really like that they moved away from the Surge foil. It just kind of gave me a headache. I like these. Ulamog's Nullifier. 2 blue-black for 2/3 Eldrazi Processor with the Void and Flash and Flying. We're just shoveling keywords onto cards because we can. When it enters the battlefield, you may put 2 cards from your opponent's own from exile into their owner's graveyards. If you do, counter target spell. So it is a difficult to deal with counter spell if you're exiling your opponent's stuff, which you should be doing anyway. Just like a basic upgrade that should be in this deck, if it's not already, is Farewell. Like Farewell, Sunfall. It makes sense to be in here even if you're trying to go faster than that, because if your plan A gets disrupted, it's always good to have a plan B. Twisted Landscape. It's a land that taps for colorless, and then you can search your library for, or you can tap and sacrifice it to search your library for a basic swamp, mountain, or forest. Put into the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Then it cycles for Jund. Same thing, but cycles for Bant. It's forest, plains, island. Tech Edge. Hey, I haven't seen that in a while. Land that taps for a colorless. 1 tap and excuse me. Sorry about that. 1 tap and sacrifice it. Destroy target non-basic land. Activate only if an opponent controls 4 or more lands. What's funny is you can destroy your own non-basic lands, but your opponent still has to have 4 or more lands. It's kind of a silly interaction that many people recognize at first. Reliquary Tower. You have no maximum hand size. Taps for colorless. Nice little utility land. Soul Ring. 1-mana artifact. Taps for 2. If it's not in your commander deck, what are you doing? You need to have a very good reason for it to not be in your deck if you're playing commander, and if it's legal in whatever format you're playing, you're probably playing it. Which is to say, if you're playing Vintage, it's probably already in your deck. Artisan of Kolak, or Kozilek. Full transparency, I'm very tired. It's been a long day, but I need to get through this deck because I need to get through this deck. Artisan of Kozilek, 9 mana, 10-9 Eldrazi. When you cast a spell, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a nice reanimator. And that has an Annihilator 2. Opal Palace. Okay, taps for colorless, and then 1 and tap. Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. If you spend this mana to cast your commander, it enters the battlefield with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to the number of times it's been cast from the command zone this game. So, that's a fun one. Just make your commander even bigger. Ulamog's Dreadsire? Ulamog's Dreadsire. 10 mana, 10-10, Eldrazi with Vigilance. And Ward, sacrifice a permanent with mana value 1 or greater. Well, that's just rude. And then tap, create a 10-10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. Okay. Benthic Anomaly. 6 and a blue for a 7/8 Eldrazi Serpent with Devoid. When you cast a spell for each opponent, choose a creature that player controls. Create a token that's a copy of one of those creatures, except its power. Except its power is equal to the total power of those creatures. Its toughness is equal to the total toughness of those creatures, and it's a colorless Eldrazi creature. What? When you cast a spell for each opponent, okay, so you're going to get it in number of times. Choose a creature that player controls. Create a token that's a copy of one of those creatures. Okay, so you choose one of the creatures that you've chosen, and all of the... You're creating a single token, it appears. Okay, so you're selecting for each opponent, then you're creating one token out of those. Except its power is... Oh, okay, so you total up the power and toughness of the creatures that you've selected. Or chosen, rather. You're creating one token, and that token's power is equal to the collective power of those creatures. Its toughness is equal to the collective toughness of those creatures. And it's also a colorless Eldrazi. Man, that is a confusingly worded card. Eldritch Immunity. For colorless, you get a Kindred instant Eldrazi. Target creature you control gains protection from each color until end of turn. Overload 4 and a colorless. Well, that's neat. It's also not in the main set. Okay. That's a lot less neat. So it's only Commander, Legacy, and Vintage Legal. Yeah, because it's rare. Selective Obliteration. 3 colorless, sorcery. Each player chooses a color. Then exile each permanent unless it's colorless or only the chosen color its controller chooses. Okay. Well, that is a very situational board wipe that many people will probably play. Angelic Aberration. 5 and a white for a 4/4 Eldrazi Angel. Eldrazi Angel. Okay, I wonder if this is coming out of Innistrad. It looks like it is, based on the theming. This may have just been leftover art from Shadows over Innistrad. Devoid Flying Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of creatures, each with base power or toughness 1 or less. Create that many 4/4 colorless Eldrazi Angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance. Oh, so you can sacrifice a bunch of scions and turn them into angels. Okay, that... Oh, that's gross. Just could make a giant army of angels very quickly. Bismuth Mindrender. 3 and a black for a 4/3 Eldrazi with Devoid, Menace, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast that card by paying life rather than the spell's mana value, rather than paying its mana cost. Oh, you may cast that card by paying life equal to the spell's mana value. I just misread that. Rather than paying its mana value. Mana cost. Jeez. I should not be recording right now. Oh, I am a silly head. Hideous Taskmaster. 6 and a red for a 7/2 Eldrazi with Devoid. When you cast a spell, for each opponent gain control of up to 1 target creature that player controls until end of turn. Untap those creatures. They gain Trample, Haste, and Annihilator 1 until end of turn. Trample, Haste, Annihilator 1. What? I don't really agree with the templating on this. I feel like the Trample, Haste, Annihilator 1 should be higher up, but then you have this cast trigger in a weird place. It's strange templating. Twins of Discord. Speaking of which, I need to set up a Discord for this channel. I've had this channel for almost for over a year and a half now. And I don't think I have a Discord set up. Do I? No, I do. I set up a Discord. Message me, and you'll get an invite to the Discord. Yeah. Twins of Discord. 7 mana, 8/6, Eldrazi. Whenever you attack, choose odd or even. Creatures with mana value of that quality can't block this turn. Each other colorless creature you control has Bloodthirst 2. Oh boy. It'd be real nice if they explained what Bloodthirst was. So Bloodthirst is, if an opponent was dealt damage this turn, when this creature enters the battlefield, it enters with an additional 2 +1/+1 counters. Well, X +1/+1 counters, where X is the Bloodthirst value. Mutated Cultist. 2 and a black. Oh, this is the one that is doing silly stuff with Dark Depths. 2 and a black for a 1/3 Eldrazi Horror with Devoid. When you cast a spell, remove all counters from up to 1 target permanent or opponent. The next spell you cast this turn costs 1 less to cast for each counter removed this way. Death Touch. So you remove the 10 counters from Dark Depths, and then you also just fling an Ulamog into play for free, which you can do on turn, 1 with a Lotus Petal and a Dark Ritual. So Magical Christmas Land, you have the correct 5 cards in your hand, you can just do whatever. But that's true of any Magical Christmas Land where you can have any given 5 cards in your hand. So, yeah. Eldrazi Confluence. 2 and 2 colorless. Instant. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Oh, it's the Confluence cycle with an Eldrazi version. Target creature gets +3/-3 until end of turn. Exile target non-base or exile target non-land permanent, then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Or create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token with sacrifice this creature, add a colorless. What? Yeah, so you can turn 4 mana into 3 mana if you really want. That's the thing. Spawn Bed Protector. 7 mana, 6/8. Eldrazi. At the beginning of your end step, return up to 1 target Eldrazi creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Create 2 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature tokens with sacrifice this creature, add a colorless. Chittering Dispatcher. 2 and a green for a 2/3 Eldrazi drone with Devoid and Myriad. When Chittering Dispatcher leaves the battlefield, create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice this creature, add a colorless. Now Myriad, I believe, is the one where when you attack, you create a copy of it for each other opponent that you're not attacking, and then you sacrifice them at the end of combat. I think that's what Myriad is. It'd be nice if they had like a little glossary of the keywords in the deck list or something. Or, you know, if they actually used reminder text on stuff. Like that. Like, I don't remember what Myriad is. Inversion Behemoth. 2 and 2 colorless for a 2/9 Eldrazi. At the beginning of combat on your turn, switch the power and toughness of each of any number of target creatures until end of turn. Okay. Not only does this get rid of any 0x creatures, which is a thing that you can do, also turns stuff like this into effectively 9 power. It's gross. Ugin the Ineffable. Hey, that's seems like an auto-include in a deck like this. 6 mana Planeswalker. 6 mana Legendary Planeswalker Ugin that comes in with 4 loyalty, and colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, which is already really good. But considering everything in this deck should be colorless, just about, is extremely good. +1, exile the top card of your library face down. Look at it. Create a 2/2 colorless spirit creature token. When that token leaves the battlefield, put the exiled card into your hand. -3, destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Real good. Real good removal for a lot of stuff. Hey, Eldrazi Conscription. This card actually kind of needed a reprint too. 8 mana Kindred Enchantment Eldrazi Aura. That is a mouthful of words. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +10/+10 and has trample and Annihilator 2. Whenever it attacks, defending player sacrifices 2 permanents. So there's a lot of really fun combos with this, with creatures that put enchantments directly into play. I believe Academy Researchers is the classic combo with this card, which is a 1 blue, I think 2/2? It's either 2/2 or 1/1. That when it comes into play, you put a enchant creature from your hand into play attached to it. That plus Eldrazi Conscription is just silly, so it's a thing. Cascading Cataracts. Land indestructible, tap for a colorless, and then 5 tap. Add 5 mana in any combination of colors. So the classic is you use this to make WUBRG out of 5 colorless. Eldrazi Monument. Yeah, of course this should be in here. Like, we're gonna put this in here anyway. 5 mana artifact. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Have flying and indestructible. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. If you can't, sacrifice Eldrazi Monument. So, easy way to get rid of this, just board wipe. keep them from having a creature to sacrifice during their upkeep. Sire of Stagnation. For blue-black, for a 5/7 Eldrazi with the Void. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library, and you draw 2 cards. Fun. What's really fun is if you have a way of just blinking everybody's lands. That's a thing you can do. Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. Yeah, this was big back in Standard. Tap for a colorless, and then tap for 2 colorless. Spend only to cast colorless spells. Activate only if you control 7 or more lands. This was a big one to ramp in, or to use to ramp into like Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger and similar things. Ugin's Insight. 3 blue sorcery. Scry X, where X is the highest mana value among permanents you control, then draw 3 cards. Somebody setting off fireworks? Drowner of Hope. 5 and a blue for 5/5 Eldrazi with the Void. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature tokens. They have sacrificed this creature, add a colorless. Sacrifice an Eldrazi Scion, tap target creature. A lot of infinite combos with this. Fun card. Return of the Wild Speaker. 4 and a green instant. Choose one. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. Or non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. So, the flavor text on this is the curse is broken, and really this card is broken. I think somebody's setting off fireworks outside. That's weird. It's almost midnight. Tendo Ice Bridge. Old great one from, I believe, Betrayers of Kamigawa. Enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it. Tap for a colorless, and then tap and remove the charge counter, add 1 mana of any color. Great to proliferate onto. Also just a great one-shot 5-color land. Battlefield Forge. Pain land. Taps for colorless, and then red or white and deals 1 damage to you. Llanowar Waste. The black-green pain land. Brush land. It's the green-white pain land. Underground River. It's the blue-black pain land. Oblivion. So we've got the whole run of the... Well, no, we don't. We just have... We have 4 pain lands. Interesting. Let's see. Okay. I wonder if the other 6 are represented across the other decks. I don't remember. I knew there were several other pain lands across the other decks. Oblivion Sower, 6 mana for a 5/8 Eldrazi. When you cast a spell, target opponent exiles the top 4 cards of their library. Then you may put any number of land cards that player owns from exile onto the battlefield under your control. This was a big well, not really finisher. It was a big way to close out games when it was in Standard. It gets out of hand very, very quickly. So, especially if you exile a bunch of their stuff beforehand. It's very good. Adakar Waste, it is the blue-white pain land. Carpolution Forest, it is the red-green pain land. Oh, I hope the full set of them are in here. So that's 6, 7. Yavimaya Coast, it is the green-blue pain land. Sulphurous Springs, it is the black-red pain land. Caves of Koilos, it is the black-white pain land. Shivan Reef, it is the blue-red pain land. There is the full set of pain. The full cycle of pain lands are in this deck. Okay, so I normally rag on the design decisions for some of these decks. That's actually kind of cool. So, and this is going to sound silly. If you really wanted to, and you wanted to get back into Standard, and hadn't played Standard in a while, you could just buy 4 of this deck and you're like, hey, I've got the starts of mana bases. That's probably very financially irresponsible, but it's a path you could take. At least to get a full set of Pain lands. It's a thing. Imprisoned in the Moon. 2 and a blue. Enchantment Aura. Enchant creature, land, or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent is a colorless land with tap, add a colorless, and loses all other card types and abilities. It's cool. Temple of Melody. It's the black-green temple, so it enters tapped. When it enters, you scry 1, and then taps for black-green. Temple of Silence, same for white-black. Morophon, the Boundless. This is the secret alternate commander that's in here. This was one... Morophon is one of those cards that if you play a lot of commander, you should just own. But it's a 7-mana 6/6 legendary creature shapeshifter with changeling, so it is any tribal commander that doesn't otherwise have a commander. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Spells of the chosen type you can cast, or spells of the chosen type you cast cost WUBRG less to cast. This effect reduces only the amount of colored mana you pay. Other creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. There is a card from 5th Dawn, I think it's Fist of the Suns, that lets you just pay WUBRG instead of the or as an alternate cost for any spell. So that's neat and pairs well with Morophon. So, something to consider. Kozilek's Return. 2 and a red, instant, devoid, deals 2 damage to each creature. Whenever you... One moment. Whenever you cast an Eldrazi creature spell with mana value 7 or greater, you may exile Kozilek's Return from your graveyard. If you do, it deals 5 damage to each creature. So... this card was a menace in Standard, and is still pretty good in a few other formats. So, just good inclusion. Can be a fun card. Can also be a miserable card, but it can be a fun card. Worldbreaker. 6 and a green for a 5/7 Eldrazi with the Void. Whenever you cast a spell, exile target artifact, enchantment, or land. Oh, when you cast this spell, not a spell. It's like, I don't remember the card being that good. Yeah, whenever you cast this spell, exile target artifact, enchantment, or land. Reach. 2 and a colorless, sacrifice a land, return it from your graveyard to your hand. Ruins of Oran Reef, or Oran Reef. I've just always said Reef. Land. Enters the battlefield tapped, taps for colorless, tap, put a +1/+1 counter on target colorless creature that entered the battlefield this turn. Sifter of Skulls, 3 and a black, for a 4/3 Eldrazi with the Void. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token. It has sacrifice this creature, add a colorless. Also works with the alter combo we mentioned earlier. Endbringer, 5 and a colorless for a 5/5 Eldrazi. Untap Endbringer during each other player's untap step. Tap, it deals 1 damage to any target. Colorless and tap, target creature can't attack or block this turn. And then colorless, tap, draw a card. Good value engine there. Corrupted Crossroads, taps for colorless, and then tap, pay a life, add 1 mana of any color, spend it only to cast a spell with the Void. This is City of Brass for this deck, basically. Deep Fathom Skulker, 5 and a blue for a 4/4 Eldrazi with the Void. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. 3 and a colorless, target creature can't be blocked this turn. Just a good way of shoving through things that Your opponents probably don't want you to. Vile Redeemer. 2 and a green for a 3/3 Eldrazi with the Void and Flash. When you cast a spell, you may pay a colorless. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token for each non-token creature that died under your control this turn. Those tokens have sacrificed this creature, add a colorless. So keep in mind this says died, so things that were exiled do not count. Eldrazi Displacer. Hey, this was easily my favorite of the Eldrazi during the Battle for Zendikar era. I actually enjoyed this card. I love blinking things, which comes as no surprise to many of my friends. This and Thought-Knot Seer were hilarious and were a great alternate win condition. But 2 and a white for a 3/3 Eldrazi with the Void. 2 and a colorless, exile another target creature, then return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. You can tap, or you can flicker your opponent's stuff too, which was just a great way to shut down their things. Very, very good card. Mystic Forge, 4-mana artifact. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast artifact spells and colorless spells from the top of your library. Tap, pay a life, exile the top card of your library. That's a good one. All is Dust. Ooh. 7-mana Kindred Sorcery Eldrazi. Each player sacrifices all permanents they control that are 1 or more colors. Very, very powerful removal spell for colorless decks. Rishkar's Expertise. For green for sorcery, draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. And then you may cast a spell with mana value 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. All of the Expertise cards are just silly. They are so much value. Awakening Zone. 2 and a green enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token. It has sacrificed this creature, add a colorless. Eldrazi Temple. Hey, this needed a reprint. Tap for a colorless, and then it also taps for 2 colorless that you can spend only to cast colorless Eldrazi spells or activate abilities of colorless Eldrazi. Elder Deep Fiend. This is another fun one. 8 mana for a 5/6 Eldrazi Octopus, but you'll almost never pay that 8 mana because it has Flash and Emerge for 5 blue. You may cast a spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the Emerge cost reduced by that creature's mana value. So, even if it's at 0, you're getting a 1 mana reduction. You're almost always going to play this for its Emerge cost. It is a silly card. When you cast a spell, tap up to 4 target permanents. When this was in standard, it was very common to just lock out your opponent by casting multiple of these back to back. And then just attacking with them. Or chaining them to emerge off one another. So, that was the thing. Alright, Bonder's Enclave. It's a land that taps for colorless, and then 3, tap, draw a card, activate only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. Nice little draw engine. Not too exciting, nothing to write home about, but it's alright. There's also something Wreckage that's very similar to that. I don't know. Exotic Orchard. Land taps to add 1 mana of any color an opponent's lands could produce. Forsaken Monument. Another card that it's just obvious should have gone in here. 5 mana legendary artifact. Colorless creatures you control get +2/+2. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, add an additional colorless. Funny thing with this is it just goes infinite with Basalt Monolith. Just by existing. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, you would gain 2 life. Good card. Definitely should be in here. Dreamstone Hedron, 6-mana artifact. Tap, add 3 colorless. 3 tap, sacrifice it, draw 3 cards. Yeah, it's just an alright mana rock that draws stuff. Arcane Signet, taps for your 2-mana artifact, taps for your commander's color identity. We all know what this does. And it's just, you know, a default card for commander at this point. Tomb of the Spirit Dragon. Another fun one from standards past. Taps for colorless. 2 tap, you gain a life for each colorless creature you control. Secluded Courtyard. Hey, oddly enough, in standard right now as well. There's a bunch of standard lands in here. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Tap, add a colorless. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend it only to cast the creature spells of the chosen type or activate an ability of a creature source of the chosen type. Very nice. Idol of Oblivion. 2-mana artifact. Tap, draw a card. Activate only if you created a token this turn. And then 8, tap, sacrifice it. Create a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. Then we have some wastes. Let's see. We have a waste. Okay. Talisman of Curiosity. It is the blue-green talisman. Talisman of Impulse. It is the red-green talisman. Warping Whale. Ooh. 1 and a colorless instant. Choose 1. Exile target creature with power or toughness, 1 or less. Counter target sorcery spell. Okay. Or create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token. It has sacrifice this creature, add a colorless. Talisman of Dominance is the blue-black talisman. Command Tower, taps for your commander's color identity. Ash Barrens, taps for a colorless, and then has basic land cycling 1. Is there just like 1 of each basic in here? Yeah. Yeah, that's where they went with this. So, that's a thing. Let's see, for Eldrazi, that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Ancient Stirrings. Classic pairing in any Eldrazi deck. Also with any heavy colorless theme. It's staple in Pauper, staple in Modern. It's just a fantastic card for colorless decks. So it's good. But for a green, you get a sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a colorless card from among them and put it into your hand. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So, it's nice. Ulamog's Crusher. Speaking of Pauper, this is one of the primo reanimate targets in Pauper. But an 8-mana 8/8 Eldrazi with Annihilator 2, and it attacks each combat if able. Just big dumb thing with Annihilator 2. It's one of the best reanimate targets in common. Garruk's Uprising. 2 and a green enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Creatures you control have trample, and whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Keep in mind with Eldrazi Displacer being in here, you can flicker cards to draw things with this. Suffer the Past. X and a black. Instant. Exile X target cards from target player's graveyard. For each card exiled this way, that player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Good graveyard hate and drain spell. That's it. Skittering Invasion. 7-mana Kindred Sorcery Eldrazi. Create 5/0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens. They have sacrifice this creature, add a colorless. Path of Ancestry. Land enters tapped. Tap, add 1 mana of any color and your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent to cast this creature cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, scry 1. So, with how many tokens you're creating, one of the just immediate upgrades to consider for this deck are Doubling Season and Anointed Procession, which I'm sure are very expensive right now, but their token doublers are just good. Unclaimed Territory. It's a land, enters tapped, or sorry, when it enters, you choose a creature type. It doesn't enter tap, it actually enters untapped. Tap for a colorless, and then tap, add 1 mana of any color, spend only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. So, another good one. You see this in human stacks a lot, the 5-color human stacks. And then we have a plains, an island, a swamp, a mountain. I wonder if we're going to have a forest. And a forest! Hey! And then the extra thick etched special ripple foil Ulalek Fused Atrocity standy thing. It's extra thick. And our tokens. Now keep in mind they kind of shorted us on these tokens. They're only foil on one side. So we have a 10/10 Eldrazi. That is a spirit, non-foil on the back. And then we have a spirit. That's an Eldrazi on the back. That's silly. Then we have a copy token. That's an Eldrazi Angel on the back. We have a 4/4 Flying Vigilance Eldrazi Angel. That's a copy on the back. Then we have a 1/1 Shapeshifter. That's a Changeling token. With a copy on the back. Eldrazi Spawn 0/1. Sacks for a colorless. Then Eldrazi Scion in the back. See, if that was a double-sided foil token, that would be a fantastic token. Because a lot of the time you need both. You have an Eldrazi Spawn, it's a Scion on the back, Eldrazi Spawn, it's a Scion on the back, Eldrazi Scion, it's a Spawn on the back, and Eldrazi Spawn, it's a Scion on the back. So the Eldrazi, you get shorted your foil Eldrazi Scions. Then a turn order and format reminder card. Like, overall, this is a fairly neat deck. I just don't like the design of the Eldrazi. I know a lot of people love them. It's just not for me. There are some cool things you can do. They're the classic Timmy kind of card. Like Eldrazi are what Timmys play when they get older, I guess. Something like that. It's something that one has said before, I'm sure. But yeah, again, not really for me, but it is a neat design overall. All right. Well, thank you for joining me on this adventure. Apologies for salting off and rambling. I feel like I kind of went on forever with this. But, I mean, it is a neat concept. You do, on the plus side, you do get one of each pain land in each of these decks. So that's actually kind of neat. I personally don't need a matching set of pain lands because I've had mine for years. But I could see if you were in the market for those, this would be really cool. And I'm sure this has helped bring down the cost of pain lands a little bit. Not that they were really super high at the moment to begin with, because they've all been reprinted in the standard recently, but it's neat. And there's some other things that needed reprints that got reprints in here, like All Is Dust and Forgotten Monument, and I've already forgotten some of the things. The Mystic Forge? Mystic Forge was in there too. So that's neat. And, yeah. Well, hopefully this will be good overall, but I've already seen a lot of people complaining about Ulalek. So, who knows? It is a... I will say it is a rules nightmare dealing with Ulalek at some points. But it is what it is. Alright, well, thank you for joining me on this adventure. Again, sorry for salting off. But it is what it is. I'm going to do it. Until next time. Or, as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. I'm rambling. It's been a long day. I'm going to go get some sleep. But, yeah. Until next time, stay awesome. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.